Did you know that St. Luke's University Health Network, based in the Lehigh Valley, Pennsylvania, has been recognized by the U.S. government as the highest performing health system in the United States for quality? You heard right. St. Luke's #1 recognition affirms our status as the top leader among the most respected healthcare providers in the nation, including Houston Methodist and the Mayo Clinic. To state it simply, if you want to receive the best care when you go to a hospital, come to St. Luke's.
It's Another Side of Midnight with Lionel. Now, to the Bernard McGurk Studios, here's Lionel.
You can un-X to let the lunatics in. Alrighty, Lionel with you when this is The Other Side. Excuse me. One of these days, I'm going to get this right. And I don't know when. It might be another year, but I'm going to try my best. Another side, this other side, another side, some other side, another side of midnight with Lionel. My friends, that's what we're going to talk. 800-848-9222, 800-848-9222. This is, of course, the signal for people to call who have no idea what we're talking about, who have something to ask that has something to do with anything remotely rational. And I love that. I love that. Little programming note. We're going to return, since we have set up shop here on the weekends, which I absolutely love. We used to have Warrior Wednesday. And Warrior Wednesday was my beloved Lynn Shaw from Lynn's Warriors to give you an update of what's going on regarding and anent the world of children and predation and the like. So we're going to do this. We're going to today, in a little bit more of an abbreviated segment, but we're going to call it a Warrior Weekend or Weekend Warrior, whatever you want to call it, coming up in this segment because so much has happened drastically. And I mean drastically. So that's coming up. So stay tuned for that. I had the opportunity today or this weekend to do something called promos and the like. And people, in the radio biz, it's where you describe kind of what your show is. This is the funniest of them all. And people will invariably say what they wish their show would be, what they think their show is, but not what their show really is. And I want to tell you what I want this to be, what I think. See, during the week, I have a list of everything I want to talk about. And I think, oh, they're going to love this. Oh, this is going to be great. Oh, this is going to be great. Oh, I'm going to write this down. Oh, and I think of you during the week. And for some particular reason, and I don't know why, I think the stuff that I'm talking about is some of the scariest information out there. And when you say scary to people, they think things like, you mean, dark energy or, UFOs or UAPs or, whatever. Cryptids. Yeah. That's true. That's true. Maybe. That's that prototypical Art Bell stuff. And I don't ever want to do prototypical Art Bell stuff because, first of all, there's only one Art Bell. There's only one. And anybody who tries to top that, believe me, doesn't work. But I wanted to talk about something which also scares me and which I think is more fascinating. And sometimes you got to spend a little bit more time getting to the point, but let me see if I can do this. The first issue is, listen to me carefully. How do you know what you know? Whenever you hear somebody opine, think, say, expatiate, limb, describe anything, whatever it is, whether it's sports or weather, ask, how do you know what you know? By what basis do you know this? By what frame of reference do you know this? Where did you get this from? How did you understand this one? Where does this one come from? See, all of these things are the most fascinating To me, that is. And what happens is the next subject, which frightens me, is your curiosity. What makes you get out of bed to look something up? When you don't know the meaning of a word, when you hear something for the first time, when you're not sure of something, what makes you say, I got to figure this out. I've got to know this. This, I'm afraid, we are seeing less and less of. I'm sorry to say. This past week, 2 events happened in the world of what you might want to call politics, geopolitics, international relations, political theory, international relations, whatever you want to call it. 2 events which, yet again, whatever you want to call them, the news folks, the news, cable news or others, those who were, I believe, charged with filling us in with what's going on. 2 events happened which were cataclysmic, intellectually, spiritually, absolutely. First, and I'll get this out of the way, Robert Kagan. Now, depending upon who you are, depending upon how hip you are, when I say Kagan, Robert Kagan, who is Robert Kagan? I'll make it even easier. Maybe. Who is he married to? Victoria Nuland. Now, I can look. When I tell people this, I'll look in their eyes. If I don't see their eyes bug, glimmer, twitch, I realize I know who I'm talking to, and I move on. This is the powerhouse couple that basically is the brain trust, for lack of a better word, of what you would call neocons. Neocons. They are it. They are what Kissinger was, maybe, sort of, but even beyond that, it's a little bit different. Robert Kagan wrote in an article, I think it was in the Atlantic, which basically upended everything about our international doctrines, and basically set the neocon world on its head regarding Iran, the Middle East, the world. It was shocking. Now, on one side of this spectrum, on one side of the I guess spectrum, I say, most people were saying, the people who really study this internationally, oh my God, it was like somebody declaring gravity wasn't real, or light theories were completely upended. It was incredible. In American prototypical classic news coverage, nothing. Crickets. Not a word. Who? Robert who? Not interested. Let's just talk about China. And let's look at China. Oh, look. Look, somebody went to, I forget who it was, somebody from Fox News went to some shop and there was a robot. Oh, look, there's a garden. Oh, that's neat. Oh, is that Elon Musk? Boy, he's tall. You think I'm kidding? Imagine Potsdam. Imagine, I mean, and any other. I'm thinking to myself, oh my God. Okay. The other one, and this is the one that got me. There was a fascinating comment that had, of course, the international world going berserk. And what happened was, there was a wonderful reference by a political scientist by the name of Graham Allison. Graham Allison, in 2015, coined the term the Thucydides trap. Thucydides, of course, the Athenian historian who wrote this big blockbuster on the Peloponnesian War, the Thucydides trap. And he said this in 2015, which deals with the tendency towards war when an emerging power, listen to me carefully, threatens to displace an existing great power as a regional or international hegemon. Okay? Okay. Left side of the screen, international news, international relay. Wow. Okay, why do I say that? Because that's the first thing Xi Jinping said in a speech right off the bat, after a warning about Taiwan. But forget that. We're not going to talk about that. This is the Thucydides trap. And all of a sudden, Graham Allison from Harvard, he's a Harvard political scientist, the world news couldn't get enough of it. What does this mean? TED Talks he did, people going. The last time we saw this this particular aspect in practice was World War I, when on the 11th hour of the 11th month of the 11th day, there was this armistice in a world war, something that was so huge, so incredible, so frightening, so enormous, that the first time the word world war was ever coined, it was the most incredible. And because Allison's been on every news show, everybody's been talking about him on the left side of the screen. International, whatever you want to call it, whatever that world is, he was there. And what's interesting, he says, what's the most frightening? Remember, this is the scary stuff, my friends. This is the stuff that should keep you up at night. It's not so much powers getting involved. It's the third introduction of this. In game theory, there is a concept called tertius gaudens, which is where a third party comes in and mixes it up and then backs out. The third party could be North Korea. It could be, who knows? And the reason why I say this is because in World War I, which most people could not explain, if you walked up to them, went to Times Square with $1,000 in your hand and said, tell me how World War I, what was it? The third kind of an outlier event, Sarajevo, Archduke Franz Ferdinand, had nothing to do, Serbia. I mean, let me stop. Two events rocked certain communities. Here's my question. What was it, or what effect did it have on people whose job it is to figure out what's going on in the world? Nothing. Had no effect whatsoever. How do we know what we know? What spurs our curiosity? What makes us get out of bed to say, I've got to figure this out? What news director at any network said, we're going to lead with this, the Thucydides trap? What did this mean? What does this mean when Xi Jinping says this, right? Every word carefully crafted, every word, no throwaways. What did this mean? And more importantly, why was the entire world, and in many, many international sectors, absolutely agog over this? But in our beloved and wonderful country, in our news, which I believe has completely abdicated, if not abnegated, its responsibility to explain what's going on, stuff that really matters, not a word. Could it be because they don't understand, they don't care, or they have been somehow programmed to minimalize and infantilize and drop down the level of understanding so you don't get upset? We don't want to upset the masses. Years ago, one time they asked, I think it was Queen Victoria, was it the time of Oscar Wilde when he was charged with a variety of, events and, I don't want to say homosexual, but different charges of, I'm not sure if I could even use the word, but you know what I mean, homosexual activities, a conversation, as it were. And when approached, Queen Victoria reportedly didn't know what he was talking about. And she said, well, as long as it doesn't scare the horses. And that's where we are right now. The question is, How do we know what we know? And how much are you not being told? What's worse? I'm a lawyer by training, trial lawyer, still in practice. And you could sue a doctor if he doesn't tell you what you have. Should we be able to sue news agencies for not telling us what's going on? 800-848-9222. Coming up, my beloved Lynn Shaw with Lynn's Warriors in this, the first weekend installment of Weekend Warriors on Another Side of Midnight with Lionel.
It's Another Side of Midnight with Lionel. This is Another Side of Midnight with Lionel. Now, to the Bernard McGurk Studios, here's Lionel.
Alrighty, my friends, Lionel with you on Another Side of Midnight. And that song, that theme, I love it. It makes me feel empowered. It makes me feel happy. During the previous iteration of the show, we would have Warrior Wednesdays with my beloved, my wife. Full disclosure. I like when they say full disclosure, like I'm hiding something from Lynn's Warriors. And it was an update on probably one of the greatest topics, the most important issue that you can imagine. And so much has happened regarding child predation, parents' rights, what's going on regarding the world of cyber negligence, if you will, as it affects children. So without further ado, from linswarriors.org and on Twitter, or X, I should say at _Lynn's _Warriors is, of course, my beloved Lynn Shaw from Lynn's Warriors. Lynn Shaw, welcome back to, Warrior Weekend or Weekend Warriors.
Thank you, Lionel. You know what? We are thrilled to be here, the Warriors, and we thank you always for providing a platform and for sharing this most critical and crucial information that we want everybody to understand what's going on behind the scenes, what they need to know, what they need to do, and how we're all coming together to protect our kids, whether it's online or in real time.
And a lot of good news, I should say, a lot of good news and tremendous breakthroughs. So take it away.
Well, something extraordinary, I believe, is happening right now across America. The pendulum is definitely swinging towards protecting children, back towards protecting them more, because we at the Warriors are always telling you, we know this is complex, and sometimes it sounds, kind of heavy, all this information about what's going on. But we are seeing everything swing back in our favor because, for instance, for years, parents, they were told concerns about smartphones, social media, online exploitation, screen addiction, digital harms, constantly told, overblown, overlooked, overreacting. But now we have the evidence. The evidence is everywhere. We can't escape the evidence. We have schools that are banning phones. We've got states reconsidering these government-issue Chromebooks that are in the classrooms, and they've made the kids dependent. That's part of their learning. We've got these lawsuits against these social media giants mounting. Parents are also demanding back to, let's see, pencil to paper, education and even textbooks. Again, get rid of the Chromebooks, get rid of the digital devices in the classroom. And kids themselves, and this is so important, are beginning to push back against AI. All this saturation that seemingly, look, it's been around a long time, but it's seeped in, and in the last year is hitting everybody. And this endless digital manipulation, the kids themselves are recognizing what's going on. So at the center of this movement, though, I want to be very clear and point out what empowers us, what helps us, are these survivor parents, that come forward. Their children have been harmed, right, by these devices, by social media, and they don't want any other kids harmed or any parents to go through what they're going through. And so they're fighting and educating all of us. And organizations like Lynn's Warriors, we are fighting to put kids ahead of algorithms and profit and all this technology, what we are going to call the last 2 decades, experimentation.
Yes. Alrighty. We seem to have a little tad of a glitch here right now. We'll get to her right away. Something perhaps maybe we need to change phones or something. In any event, I don't know if that if that has affected you, gentlemen. Let me see if we can get her back on the line. The reason why this is very important, why very, very critical, is that for the longest time, and we've been saying this, it was kind of like everything was sort of stalled, for lack of a better word. Things were stalled. There was nothing really seemed to be happening in terms of what's happening. What's more important is that there's been a change, a tremendous change in terms of the way people, especially not only in Washington, but with the White House and others, with the removal of David Sachs and others from the folks who were advising the president, things have changed drastically. And also people, I think, are becoming very, very, very frightened, tremendously frightened by the specter of what this means. So what we have right now is something which is extremely critical and extremely frightening. And by the way, in fact, prior to this, we were talking more towards this. We started with the idea of AI not really being something that bothered or scared anybody. And what happened was nobody really knew what AI meant. When AI first came along, it was construed kind of as a kind of like a robot, like a Roomba for kids, if that makes any sense, which is the strangest thing. So what happened was, little by little, as people started to realize what happened and what it does mean, then all of a sudden people said, wait a minute, this is not as how do I say this, as innocuous as we thought. I believe she is back. Is Lynn Shaw back from the abyss?
I am certainly here.
Okay. There.
I am never going anywhere. We are going to continue talking constantly about the great news surrounding child safety.
Well, what I was saying also, just quickly during the intermission, or during the interruption, I should say, I think at first people didn't really understand. When you said AI or whatever, they said, oh, okay, look, it's innovation and it's good and it's groovy. And we saw a robot, and then something changed in the meantime. What do you think that was? Because the president has certainly been on board with this. A lot of people, and by the way, you were in Washington this past week. I don't want to go in too much into detail, but what do you think changed the tide?
Well, I really think that, listen, the Internet, we got to go back a little bit. The Internet basically was born in 1996. Now, fast forward, we have 30 years, 3 decades coming forth of information, of studies, of social media harms, of kids, their brains, parents, families, how all of that online world affected everyone, right, 30 years. So now, AI. Kind of, it started out, I remember a couple of years ago, about 2 years ago, ChatGPT, and everybody was covering it in the media, and everybody was using it, and it was just a big deluge of everything. And then those of us in the movement, and educators started thinking, and doctors, and, psychologists, and they started, no, wait a minute. We saw what happened over the last 3 decades with the Internet. Now we're going to bring forth more information. We're going to talk about it. We're going to push back a little bit. And the movement has grown. I also think more people are definitely aware of what's going on the Internet. So I think, in the beginning 2 years ago, it was all cute and nice and happy, or at least that's what we were told. And then it has kind of, seeped out. No, step back. We can't just unleash all of this artificial intelligence. And we saw right away with kids and teens, those AI chatbots, those artificial intelligence, those chatbots. Chatbots, everybody, are machines. They are not real, okay? They do not have emotions. They cannot be your friend. We constantly teach this to kids. And we saw right away the harms of these chatbots. Remember, kids were in isolation since that COVID period. They continued online up to 9 hours a day. Kids spend online, and they were developing There were free programs. Let's, character AI. We can develop a little character in the likeness of a cartoon character, of a superhero, and that character can be your friend. And you can mold that character online, any way. It will tell you everything. You're beautiful, you're handsome, you're the smartest, and it will be your best friend. But eventually, and not doesn't take too long, it may turn on you and start telling you harmful things, how to harm yourself, how to harm others. And that's what we saw almost immediately with kids harming themselves. So I think overall there is much more awareness, there is much more pushback. And again, kids themselves are beginning to reject this artificial intelligence. They see the harms, and the 30 and under crowd are coming out and saying, we were used as guinea pigs with the internet. We don't want to see this for other kids younger than us.
And also, can you give us a little bit of an idea of what you saw this weekend when you were in D.C. Meeting with a bevy of notables? What can you tell us without divulging too much?
I can tell you that this trip to Washington was probably the most gratifying trip in the name of child safety I've ever had. Leaving D.C. feeling fulfilled, feeling like the administration is going to get the job done. On top of it, we gathered on Capitol Hill. We had a Mother's Day rally, and we brought survivor mothers, and there were some fathers there, over 30 in attendance. And we had Senator Marsha Blackburn speaking, and Senator Richard Blumenthal, the two co-sponsors of our Kids Online Safety Act, Senate Version 1748. I like to throw that in, the number, to get everybody used to what this bill is. And we're talking about a bill, Kids Online Safety Act, that will provide a duty of care, hold big tech accountable. Listen, we at the Warriors and all of us at the rally, we are pro-innovation, we are pro-technology. But these parents have suffered the most, unimaginable loss and horror. And they are there bravely. And we work with so many of them constantly, right? They come from all over the country to warn people, this is what can happen. Your child is online. There are algorithms that feed your kids, cyberbullying, eating disorders, sextortion, how to buy pills, online with 2 clicks. And we came together just to talk about the Kids Online Safety Act, to rally once again, right on Capitol Hill. And along with it, a big shout-out to Senator Amy Klobuchar. She came along and spoke. Now, when I mention these names, I want everybody to understand. We talk about bipartisan. Anything to do with children and families in our book should be bipartisan, okay? This, to me, the Kids Online Safety Act, this movement with parents, is truly bipartisan. Everybody can or should be getting on board. But why this trip was so fulfilling is because all of a sudden, out of the side of my eye, I saw Senator Ted Cruz sauntering up to take the microphone.
And why is that important?
It is important because he is the chairman of his Commerce Committee. He has been, how should I put this, delaying, holding up, let's call it what it is, for the Kids Online Safety Act to go to a vote to the floor. That's basically the bottom line, okay? He and Speaker Johnson. So, listen, the Kids Online Safety Act, 91-3 in the Senate. Beautiful. Nobody thought this is a no-brainer. It's going over to the House now for a vote. It will be the same thing as the Senate. Well, this will just go right through. However, it's been sitting in the House, collecting this dust, doing nothing. Nobody knew. Every time I'm in Washington, what's happening, when does it move to something they call markup? And markup is right before it goes to the floor for a vote. You take the piece of legislation, you debate it, you look at it, you talk about it, you mark it up a little bit here and there, and you throw it on the floor for a vote, okay? Going nowhere, nobody seemed to have any answers. I certainly want to point out that Senators Blackburn and Blumenthal have been child champions all along. They have really done tremendous work in this area. So what's happening is it's been held up. Okay, and now for Senator Cruz to come along and want to speak at this rally, and there was lots of press there, and I said to myself, well, this is interesting. He went right up to the microphone, and he gave a very impassioned speech, There were a lot of cameras there. I'll just leave that up to everybody's imagination. I'm thinking, gee, does he want to talk? The cameras, maybe he wants this press coverage. But here's the thing. The pendulum has swung back. The president wants to get child safety done. He wants to put something in place.
Yes.
He specifically told the speaker, let's get it done. Let's help these parents. These parents have come to Washington over and over and over again. And this Kids Online Safety Act, so everybody understands, okay? Nobody's seeking your information, shutting you down, invading your privacy, puts this on the shoulders of big tech. Because right now, Lionel, they are the only business, okay, that no regulations. They are a runaway train. They are collecting the trillions and zillions, whatever you want to call it, off the backs of all of us, and especially our kids. And there's harmful content, and we all know it. And why is this allowed? When I always say, you have to wear a seatbelt and a bicycle helmet, all that. But you give your child a device, and it's opening up the world. Now, yes, you have to be aware. You have to talk to your children. You have to use whatever parental controls are available. But at the same time, and we know this from the whistleblowers, the internal memos, that big tech, they designed it to keep those kids addicted. This is why we have the lawsuits right now, to keep those eyeballs on there.
How did they do that specifically? What were the design parameters that made them do that or that fed into the addiction?
The design parameters, the bottom line is they were making money and lots of money when they saw. We have an internal memos, plural, from Meta, and their whole goal 1 year was the teens. Let's go after the teens. Like, that was their whole marketing agenda. Let's keep just giving them content. For instance, these algorithms we talk about. Kids may be researching Apple. I'm just making this up,
right.
But
Sure.
Looking at it, what is an apple? Or all this. What's the color of an apple? Very simple things, okay? Eventually, and not too many clicks away, they'll be fed information and be led into dark areas, pornography, eating disorders. So the kids are being fed all this content because they know, big tech, that kids will keep looking, kids will keep seeking, kids will keep seeing. And remember also, the more time spent online, the more they can charge for ads, the more volume they have, big tech. So it has become just this real, I don't even know the word for it, a dark, dark place is for children. And we have the studies now. So we know this is not made up. This is not, parents that are just, going berserk over this. We have this evidence now. We have studies now that are showing us the information. So nobody could understand the Kids Online Safety Act in the House and Senator Cruz and Speaker Johnson responsible, get it to the floor, nothing. This trip was so important because Senator Cruz we're holding his feet to the fire. We have it. He said it in front of all the press, in front of all of us. We will get the Kids Online Safety Act marked up. We will look at it. We will get it to a floor vote and onto the president's desk, because I do know the president wants to get involved and sign this into legislation. And it simply holds big tech. They have a duty of care. They know, if they know they're putting out something harmful, they can't do that. It's a design kind of feature. So it's all, this is such good news because these parents are so worn out. Can you imagine being these parents? They bravely, and they speak for the thousands of parents who cannot come to Washington, who will not speak about the horror their families have lived through. And it is time to get the job done and start holding big tech accountable. Why are they allowed to be the only business? They're calling this right now, kind of the big tobacco moment for big tech. And it's time to start addressing it, cleaning it up, and not lagging behind, because thousands of kids have died and are dying. So people have to understand all of this.
Right. We're talking to Lynn Shaw from Lynn's Warriors, lynswarriors.org, and on X or Twitter at Lynn's_Warriors, and on YouTube at Lynn's Warriors. Now, a couple of things here. Have you noticed, in fact, of course you have, you told me about it, how many folks who up till now were rather reluctant to to get on board regarding this, were all of a sudden coming out in favor of KOSA, the Kids Online Safety Act, and people that were pretty adamant against this are either capitulating, surrendering, or what I fear, just saying they're for it and not doing anything to change it. But have you noticed this change of heart? And if so, what do you think is attributed to that?
Again, I think the change of heart is let's start with big tech. Big tech was recently held accountable with 2 lawsuits, the one in New Mexico for consumer product, right? You're putting out a product harmful to children, held responsible. Then the case in California, that was also product liability, right? So these 2 court cases, they were held responsible. This is Meta right now we're talking about, which is Facebook and Instagram and WhatsApp. And, Mark Zuckerberg has been getting away, the chairman of Meta and others, but the case was about Meta, these 2 cases, forever with everything because, again, there is no regulation. There is something called Section 230 of the Communications Decency Act, which basically says these platforms are a newsstand, a billboard. They cannot be held responsible for third-party content. So these 2 cases proved coming in at different angles, okay, consumer protection, right, with kids, and then also product liability. Again, all backed up by internal memos, whistleblowers, so important that these people came forward, ethical engineers, lawyers that worked, at Meta and revealed all of this information, what was happening at the company. And so I think that those 2 cases prompted, a real turnaround in, okay, so now we've got these new angles. We're going to come at big tech different ways, okay? I really think these 2 lawsuits, because we know right now there are 2,000 plus in the courts lawsuits following. These 2 are the original, right? And it went against big tech. So I think now big tech said, we got to start doing a little something here because the American public, the public is just, there's pushback. There's too much going on. It's kind of like the genie's out of the bottle now. We're going to do something. That being said, listen, they have so much money. They wield so much power. And don't be fooled. They are all over Washington. They have 1 lobbyist, per 4 members of Congress. So, look, let me break this down. We'll take all of this right now as a good step. I think their focus has been recently, I will say, all the big tech companies on AI, on artificial intelligence, right? But we got to leave that to the side for a moment. We got to work with what we have, if you can kind of follow my logic here. And I think those 2 lawsuits certainly woke them up. We're going to do something to address all of this. And then I think that also woke up the government. And I also think, it sounds great, AI, we're going to be leaders, it's going to make us intelligent. Like, that's kind of the overall feeling. It's going to help us. It's going, we're going to be leaders. But then stepping back a little bit, because the pushback from, again, parents, educators, organizations, companies, kids themselves. Well, I know the administration said, wait a minute, we can't just unleash. We've got to do a little vetting. We've got to do let's review safety measures. Let's get into that a little more, because did we learn nothing from, social media was just thrown at everybody. We thought it was cute. There was MySpace years ago. Then there's Facebook, connect with family and friends. Sounds great. We were all involved with it. We were clicking on, adding friends. We didn't even know who they were. We didn't know any better. But now we have basically 30 years of knowledge, the harms of the internet, of social media. So now, listen, we live in a digital world. It's not going away. We're not asking anything to go away. We all love our devices. That's just the reality. But now we know you can't unleash something without, knowledge, vetting, some studies. We know harms. So now we're going to talk about the harms. And to now see in this last week, this very successful week in Washington, the president himself saying, okay, we're going to walk back the AI a little bit. We're going to look for guardrails, safety. We're going to put parents, something I have been rallying about personally in D.C. Mr. President, you need to have a parents' council. You need to put parents at the table to talk about all this. It is happening, Okay, we have promises. We are getting the job done. It may seem frustrating and slow, and it certainly has been. But I think lately, tides are changing, and everybody is coming on board. And you see, and one of the greatest things was also he was coined the AI czar, David Sachs, Silicon Valley.
Yes.
You know, kind of in the ear of the president, this. It all sounds great, okay? But you know what? It's harmful. So he is now out of the White House.
Good.
We are going to push hard to put those parents at the table, right?
Let me add, in fact, that's a perfect segue because this is for the last segment, or the last question of this segment. This is, I know, because I live with you, of course, gladly and happily, but I know for a fact how important, I want people to understand how important is remembrance and public acknowledgement for survivor parents, not only to you, but for the rest of the country, or how important should it be?
It is the most important thing. Survivor families, they deserve to be heard publicly. They have been in front of Congress. They've done congressional hearings after hearings. Their stories are forced. They want to tell them out into the public. Out there, they want everybody to know. They want to educate the American people what's really happening behind, these very polished marketing campaigns of all these big tech companies. But survivor parents, it means everything to them that their children's suffering is not being ignored or minimized. Remembrance days, rallies, public testimony validate their experiences. It fuels them and ensures that their children are not just a number. I mean, their stories are basically driving reform. I could not do my job as a warrior, we at the Warriors. This didn't happen to me, right? I didn't lose a child. Remember, it traumatizes the whole family, the siblings, the mother, the father.
Yes.
It is horrific. So we must remember them. We must talk about it. We must bring them to the table. And again, they are driving the reform. They are the ones that sit there repeatedly and tell their stories in front of Congress. And may I finish up with, they had a meeting with Speaker Johnson. This was groundbreaking. They sat with him for a very long time. They shared their stories. They shared why the Kids Online Safety Act is necessary right now, not some other time down the road, right now in 2026. And he's agreeing. He's going to get the job done. And their stories, I can't say enough, are driving reform. This is a moment in history, and this gives me a lot of hope right now. They are being listened to. All of us must come to the table, even if nothing happened, even if you don't have children. We cannot allow big tech to ruin the lives of our children, our future American adults and leaders. Communities must come together. Communities create change. So always be mindful of this. Always talk to your kids. Always watch what they're doing, with their screens, cut out the screen time a little bit. And you know what?
Yes.
Stand behind these survivor parents leading the national conversation on child safety.
That is so perfect. Our thanks, of course, tonight to Lynn Shaw and Lynn's Warriors for continuing. This is just incredible. And continuing to stand beside survivor parents and lead what really is, I think, a national conversation on child safety, online harms, and protecting the next generation. This movement is growing beyond families, and it's going across America right now because people are realizing something is very, very fundamental is happening. Childhood is worth defending. And for more information, resources, and ways to support the mission, visit Lynn's Warriors at lynswarriors.org, on YouTube at Lynn's Warriors, on X at Lynn's_Warriors. And as usual, it is so great to say welcome back. When I hear that music, it makes my heart leap because that is your anthem, and I'm so proud of you. And I love what you're doing because I love you, and I thank you so much, Lynn Shaw. Thank you, my darling.
Thank you. Love you right back.
Coming up, the next segment as we continue to take your calls, 800-848-9222. Oh, they're coming in on Another Side of Midnight with Lionel.
All night long, this is Another Side of Midnight with Lionel. This is Another Side of Midnight with Lionel. Now, to the Bernard McGurk Studios, here's Lionel.
Alrighty, Lionel with you on Another Side of Midnight. Let us jump back to your call. Not back. Let's take your calls right now until the top of this hour. We'll be here for 2 more hours after this until 5 a.m. Eastern Time. Let's go to Dave in Pennsylvania for this riveting question. Dave, you're on Another Side of Midnight with Lionel.
First a statement, Lionel, and then questions. 3 of them for Miss Shaw, 2, and 1 maybe for you and Miss Shaw. Lynn was a very fine guest indeed. Now, first, let me jump 5 words going back before Lynn. 5 words of the English language we should fear at current times. They are Donald Trump. Now, this is a big third word, administration. And the 4th and 5th words are Epstein paper. Okay.
What does that mean? What does that mean?
Out of my system.
Well, what does that mean?
The second quotient for...
No. Let me go back. What does that mean? What does that mean, Donald? Wait. Go back. Hang on. Stop. What does that mean, Donald Trump administration, Epstein paper? What does that mean?
The sexual abuse of human trafficked children.
No, I understand that. What does this have to do with Donald Trump? No, you don't. No. You're not.
It is the Donald Trump administration that supports it.
Supports what? Epstein?
Human trafficking, in particular.
Louder. I want you to say this louder.
Human traffic.
Say there's louder. And what proof do you have of that, sir?
I ran a campaign.
Okay, no. What proof do you have of that? We're running out of time. What proof do you have? Let me try this again. Let me try this baby in English. When you say that, what proof do you have of this, sir?
At least mugshots appeared on the television of human
What does this have to do? Let me try this again. Maybe now for the 3rd or 4th time, I lose track. I want you to speak clearly in a linear fashion and very cogently. Make your point. What evidence do you have of this? Not something you saw on Pittsburgh TV. I don't even know what the hell that means. This is your last chance. Go ahead, Dave. Okay, thank you so much. Dave, have a great day. And listen, support mental health. And please, it's nothing to laugh at. If you know somebody who is in crisis mode, seek them the help they need and also explain this thing called critical thinking. Let's go to Mark in Times Square. You're on Another Side of Midnight with Lionel.
Yeah, the whole thing is screwed up. I mean,
the whole thing is screwed up.
We got a new Fed chairman coming in. The Rothschilds are pulling Trump as puppets. He's a little puppet with strings attached to him. Okay, let me try to let me ask you something. You're saying things, and this is like bumper sticker stuff, and that's great. Give me some facts. Why do you say this, sir? This is all documented.
Where is it documented, sir? I want to find it. I want to go read it. Where can I go read this?
You go to rents.com.
Oh, come on. Okay, that's good. I'll start with that. Rents.com.
Alex Jones, live.com. Okay.
Now, can I ask you something? Rather than me saying, and I want you to go to zippitydoo.com. That's fine. By the way, I think the world of Alex and Rents has some fascinating things. In your own words, Mark, excuse me. What have you gleaned personally in your own words? What? You.
Yeah, but personally, basically, I think that the world is controlled by secret societies.
Okay, thank you so much. Mark, I appreciate it. You were terrific, and I mean this. And listen, I love this stuff, but if I were to say things, there's a cabal of individuals who are reptilian, and they're based on the secret society. It's like, okay, fine. Now, how do I know that? Alex Jones? that doesn't help me. Coming up, hour number 2 of this thing of ours on Another Side of Midnight, and I've got something about a word that's mispronounced and the history of it that will shock you. More coming up. Stay tuned.
It's Another Side of Midnight with Lionel. Now, to the Bernard McGurk Studios, here's Lionel.
Alrighty, Lionel with you. This is Another Side of Midnight. Our number is 800-848-9222. I must talk about why I love this time of night. First, the lunatics. Look, you can call it whatever you want. Give me a nice middle-of-the-night lunatic, and I am happier than I don't know. And I use the word lunatic. Do I mean they're crazy? Yes. And they're good. It makes the world go round. And what it is it's not that they're necessarily hearing voices, but sometimes people are unable to make linear connections and critically think regarding observations. You see, the only time that you can just say something without proving it is faith. And what I mean by that is you can say, I believe that Saint Cleotis delivered the burning branch to the Thebadibians. How do you know that? Well, it's faith. Okay. But for most, news, you say, well, somebody has to say this. If I said that our great team of Mr. Bill Lee and Jackson were a part of an international cabal of reptilians who were part of a super secret sect that had glyphs tattooed on the back of their calf in what used to be an ancient UPC code. And how do you know that? It's like, I don't know. You don't do that. Don't you understand? This is a Rothschild. This is a Rockefeller. This is a global cabal. This is a part of a skull and bones. How do you know that? Well, I just believe that. Well, how do you know that? Well, I don't know it. Well, why do you say that? I say it because I kind of like it. I sort of like it. I like the idea of it. And so like I'm trying to tell you is I want to, if anything else, I want you to be able to think clearly, think rationally, but think, I keep saying in a linear sense, but critically think. Now let me give you a couple of ideas. I'm going to throw some wonderful ideas, some thoughts out, which I find fascinating. First, stress. What is stress? Stress is bad, right? Every week. Stress. You've got to calm down in your stress. Well, the new study shows that the anxiety epidemic may not be a disorder at all. What if constant vigilance is actually an evolutionary survival mechanism, while the carefree masses walk blindly into collapse? Maybe stress is good. Scientists are now suggesting that worriers may outlive everyone because hyper-awareness keeps people alive in dangerous systems built on deception and instability. There goes that theory. How many times you've heard you can't have stress? Stress is good. It's called vigilance. It's called a survival mechanism. It's part of your evolutionary atavistic background. What do you mean? Stress is what keeps you alive. You want to kill somebody? You want to kill them? Have them retire. Do you have somebody in your family? Maybe dad, granddad. As soon as they retired, they just went straight to nowhere. A friend of mine said one time the worst part about when he retired was the phone stopped ringing. He felt useless. I've got these friends of mine, these people, I don't know why, but everybody wants to retire. Well, I'm retired. What are you doing? Oh. Well, it's okay if you retire from this, get a pension, do whatever you want. But what are you doing now to replace your job? What are you doing now to replace the stress? They have no idea. Here we go. Here's another one, too. A major river drying up is triggering renewed fears of end times prophecy in the book of Revelation. Ancient warnings about rivers disappearing before global chaos are suddenly looking less symbolic and more literal. Is climate change the excuse while something much bigger unfolds beneath the surface? No. Climate change and this ridiculous mechanism is almost all but just, nobody truly believes this. They wish this. They say this. We say things. How do you know what you know? Epistemologically speaking, how do you know what you know? How many times do you say things? Well, it's climate change. No, it's not. Whenever somebody asks you about climate change, remember these two questions. Ask them, what about the Holocene maxima and the Hypsy thermals, and walk off. I love to do that. Just walk off. Okay? Next. By the way, yesterday, my wife and I got to tell you something. I attended something which was so terrific. This makes me feel good about the human race, about the human condition. My wife was on the board of a wonderful organization called Wonder Girls. Wonder Girls. And they had their graduation yesterday at American Dream. American Dream is the largest indoor, like an amusement park. Have you seen how big this is? It's right next to the Giant Stadium or MetLife, whatever you want to call it. And of course, they're getting ready for the World Cup, which I do not understand, but that's okay. But it was one of the most wonderful events to see, not the government, but individual, private citizens, one of the 1,000 points of light. And these wonderful young girls from all over the 5 boroughs of New York receiving this leadership and graduating and scholarships. And it was just, oh my God, it was beautiful. It's a wonderful, wonderful organization. Then we got the chance to walk around. And if ever I'm on the lam, I'm going to hide in the American Dream Mall. They'll never find me. It's huge. Have you seen this? They have a ski slalom slope. It's I've never seen anything like it. Never seen anything. Remember in the 70s and 80s when old folks would walk around the mall? Let's meet at the mall. In Florida, it was a big deal. Notice I say Florida. It was a big deal because it was always so hot. They would show up in the morning with their Velcroed sneakers on and walk. Here we go. A wild new theory claims versions of you in parallel universes may actually influence your decisions and outcomes. Huh? Quantum physics is starting to sound less like science and more like a classified intelligence briefing about reality manipulation and dimensional consciousness. How do you like them apples? Think about this. Versions of you, multiple versions of you in parallel universes. Think about that one. Here is something also important. Researchers now are saying creative people physically age slower. Is art secretly activating dormant neural pathways and frequencies the system once ignored? Maybe creativity is not entertainment at all, but a biological weapon against mental and spiritual decay. What do you do that is your form of art? What do you do? Remember this story? Not too much was played. I just saw this last week when I wanted to mention this to you. Authorities quickly ruled the horrifying Denver airport jet engine death a suicide. The man who was sucked into a jet engine. Remember that one? But skeptics are asking hard questions about airport security failures, surveillance gaps, and why bizarre aviation incidents seem to be increasing worldwide. Also, when is the hantavirus freak and that mania circus going to calm down? They've killed airport travel. Are they trying to go after the cruise industry? How about this? Do you suffer from subscription fatigue? Americans are drowning in endless monthly payments for streaming and toilet paper and dog food and underwear and pills. And this isn't convenience anymore. It's a digital feudalism where corporations slowly transform ownership into this permanent dependence where you have to go back and cancel some. I never signed up for that. Why am I getting this every month? Why am I getting this every month? It's just a fascinating topic. And then coming up, I want to explain to you how one of the the word that drives me crazy is axe. Can I ask you a question? I go berserk when I hear this. It's like, for the love of God, it's not axe. It's ask. Ask. Not axe not what your country could do for you. Can I ask you a question? Well, guess what? I'm going to read for you the derivation, the etymology, the history of the word, and axe may actually be correct. Let's go back to the phones, back to the fun. Let's go to Danny in California. Danny, you're on another side of midnight with Lionel.
Lionel, you are an intellectual genius, and I am just fascinated by your show. And I just want to tell everybody that today,
thank you so
Saturday, no, you deserve it, my man. I've listened
No. Thank you so much. Danny, do me a favor. Call me next week. I appreciate it immensely. Let's go to David in New Rochelle. David, you're on another side of midnight with Lionel.
I just want to comment that when your wife was saying kids need to be on their cell phones a little bit less. No, they need to be off their cell phones totally. They don't need them. They can read books. They can draw. They can cook, just like you're saying. When they retire, you need to replace it. Well, they'll go back to traditional things that kids did. They go out and they make their own games.
Right.
Simple. You just take the phone away from the kid. Boom. And
so
you,
let me
the
tell you.
parents
So
model
you just
the same thing.
So you just
Simple as
tell
that.
your
No
kid.
complications.
No simple. Just take the phone away and that's it.
That's it. And
How many
you know
kids
what?
do you have,
Just start
David?
cooking.
How many?
I have three.
And you just.
I'm also an educator.
Okay, and also
I've been around a lot of kids.
I know, and I think it's a great idea. I think no screens until 16. You do know that there comes a point where they're going to have to. They will have a phone. They will have a pad. They will have a computer.
Of course, but what'll happen if kids start to grow up? They're going to have so many other interests and passions, as you were talking about. So when people, linking back to when you said about retirement. So in their retirement, they segue into what they really love to do, which might be, let's say, carpentry, cooking,
Did you say they
or
segue?
volunteer work.
Right.
Yeah.
That's interesting.
Well,
and
I
by
learned
the
from
way,
you
David,
listening. Yeah.
Listen, David, I appreciate it. Thank you so much, my friend. Let's go to Gray in Delaware. Gray, you're on another side of midnight with Lionel.
Hi, Lionel. Tommy Robinson's going to have a rally today in London Saturday. He's fed up with the invasion of London and Europe. And my take is that Eastern Europe eventually will be controlled by Russia. Western Europe will be controlled by Saudi Arabia. They're just getting flooded over there. Ireland, such a small island, is going to be like Somalia pretty soon. Why are they doing it? I say it's just money. They're being bought off. The politicians and the business people, most of them are being paid off in Europe. That's the only answer I could come with, unless they're totally crazy, but they all can't be that crazy.
Bought off by whom?
Saudi
Who is
Arabia.
buying them off?
Who else with all the oil money?
Saudi Arabia?
Yes. Well, you don't see what's going on in Europe? You don't know what's going on in Europe then.
No. Now you're missing the point. You think that Mohammed bin Salman is responsible for they paying this off? He's responsible for this?
They are
Saudi
building
Arabia?
some of the... Yeah, them and other Arab countries. And Communist China, too, is spending money all over the place. They just got a,
how do you know,
Chinese spot. How do I know this?
Yeah,
have you been to Europe?
No. Excuse me. Let me stop for a second. Stop. If I go to Europe,
the New World Order?
You're not understanding. You're not listening to what I'm saying. If I go to Europe and I see an invasion, how do I know it's Saudi Arabia paying for this or Europe? How do you know the source of the influx? The influx is obvious. How do you know who's paying for it?
Well, you got to go to the money sources. Who else would build a giant mosque in London,
Who else?
Rome, and Paris? Who else would do that? The Russians?
Who else? No,
Yeah,
wait,
who
wait,
would
wait,
do
wait.
that? So
Is this
you're
process of
protecting- you're
is this
protecting-
process? Hang on now. Are you doing this by virtue of process of elimination? What are you doing?
But you're protecting the establishment.
No,
You don't care
nobody's
about the invasion.
protecting anything. I'm asking
Yes, you
you
are.
to elucidate us and illuminate us and tell us, how do you come upon these conclusions? That's all.
Well, if you have a flood of Muslims into Europe,
All right.
who
So
would be
it's Saudi
doing it?
Arabia.
Who
Hey,
would be
great.
doing
Thank
it?
you so much, my friend. Have a great day. I appreciate it. And by the way, I appreciate your.
This is Another Side of Midnight with Lionel. Now to the Bernard McGurk Studios, here's Lionel.
Bamboleo. This is a great Gypsy Kings. As we used to sing in West Tampa, Bamboleo, ay que feo. Lionel with you on Another Side of Midnight. My friends, there's nothing better than somebody who just knows the bumper stickers, who just knows New World Order, and that's it. And it doesn't mean that they that's not true. It just means that's all they know. It's like people who say inflammation. Everything wrong. It's always inflammation. Well, inflammation is true, but it's like it's a little bit more complicated than that. A little bit more, and I appreciate it. But I just want people to be able to say, please give us all the dignity and also benefit us with your wisdom by explaining to you what's happening right now. By the way, do you know that people are suggesting maybe that the president might be tweeting? They're suggesting that there are a number of women in his coterie, a lot of young women who are his, one in particular who is his main tweeter or poster of sorts. And while, of course, they say, oh, this is excessive, FDR was quite excessive, one thought years ago, with the radio, which at the time was considered pretty wild stuff. So what drives someone to post nonstop for hours at a time? Is this, I'm not suggesting the president, but others perhaps, is this modern addiction? Is this algorithmic brain manipulation or evidence that social media has rewired attention spans beyond repair? You see, the internet is turning everyone into digital performance addicts. Have you noticed this? It's phenomenal. How about this one? Japan is now deploying robotic wolves to scare off bears. I love it. It sounds like science fiction, but it also hints at a future where autonomous machines replace natural systems entirely. Today, robot wolves. Tomorrow, AI-controlled enforcement units watching entire populations. You know this is happening, right? You know this is happening. You know it's going to come. You know it. And the best part about it is that nobody seems to care. They just say, okay, you think maybe we might want to have some kind of hearings on this now? Could be. A civil war now is brewing inside the Democratic Party as younger activists revolt against aging political leadership. Behind the scenes, this is really about power succession and donor control and who commands the machinery of the permanent political class. I am finding that most of the people that I find to be extremely boring to me are people of my own age range, my own age group. They're incredibly unimaginative, boring beyond anything I could imagine. And what they do is they want to keep refurbishing that which they are used to. I'm always constantly telling people it's like about news and information today has changed drastically, and nobody seems to care about this. The CIA escalates secret war inside Mexico. Reports right now of covert CIA operations targeting cartels inside Mexico raise explosive questions about undeclared wars. sovereignty and black budget operations. How much of America's so-called drug war is actually an intel operation hidden from public oversight? Isn't that fascinating? And of course, people will realize the question is, what is the jurisdictional parameters or the limits of the CIA? When does the CIA, when is it indeed violating the law? What is the charter? And does anyone care? The answer is no, no one cares. Recently, I was telling you, I was at the American Dream Mall in Jersey. And they're going to go crazy for the World Cup. And I'm thinking to myself, isn't this interesting? And I always think about this. Imagine you are meeting someone from another planet, another system, and you have to explain to them, here's what we do. We have this thing called sports. And what sports does is it pretends to mimic war, and people will put on jerseys and they'll come from all over the world. This is going to be something bigger than anything, and I do not understand it for the life of me. And I understand a lot of things. I mean, I understand it intuitively and intellectually, but I do not understand. I'll watch it. I'll say, okay, this is interesting. This is an important goal, a game, okay, fine. You got Lionel Messi and Ronaldo, and okay, fine, that's terrific. But for me to go, park, sit, find my seat, and scream like some type of tribal, weird, primitive, what am I doing? What am I screaming for? I was not in school that day, my friends. Experts are now warning that super intelligent AI may change humanity forever. Scientists are openly admitting that they may have lost or may lose control of artificial intelligence. In fact, once machines surpass human reasoning, the balance of civilization changes permanently. This is the terrifying part of AI that nobody talks about. The terrifying part is not that AI becomes conscious. It is that governments and corporations may already be far ahead of what they publicly admit. Is anybody talking about that? No. And singularity. Is singularity coming? You betcha. Ray Kurzweil predicted this. The singularity once sounded like fringe techno fantasy. Now, as we know, billionaires and military planners and Silicon Valley elites openly discuss merging humans with machines. This is beyond transhumanism. This is beyond transhumanism. This is basically the extinction, the expunction, the elimination of humanity. Are we approaching the final stage of humanity or the birth of something entirely post-human? Forget postmodernism. And where do you think are the religious leaders? Where's the Pope? Where's Il Papa? Where is he? Where do you think he works into this thing? My friends, we're going to need some of the greatest thinkers of all time. We need to go and we need to find people who really understand what is happening. I'm going to say this again. When I watched what happened this week regarding the president in China, and I'm saying, oh my God, in 1949, in China, they were eating dirt. In 1976, I think the percentage was, I was listening to Allison speak about this. It was a fascinating subject. The question was, in 1976, the number of, I think the percentage, don't hold me to this, but the percentage of Chinese who were living on $2 a day was like 96%. This was 1976. This was brutal. Today, it's another story. What scares me, and I want you to listen to me very, very carefully. I am not. Politics is a very, very important thing. It's a very difficult thing sometimes for people because remember, whenever you take it from me, when you speak to anybody in our country about politics, it's a very parochial thing to them. It's their sides, my side, your side, our side, the good side, the bad side. It's very complicated. Xi Jinping is the most important person, bar none. And what scares me, and I think it has to do with a little bit of, dare I say, political chauvinism on our part. We look at different countries and we say they're backwards. They wear a funny hat. They practice a faith we don't. They speak a language we don't. They're funny looking. They don't wear ties. They're backwards. Really? This Graham Allison was speaking about something about China. And in China, he gave as an example, this was in TED Talks about 6, 7, 8 years ago. There was a bridge over the Charles River that he looked out of his office and he saw. This was in Cambridge. And there was this bridge. And in 2012, they said they needed to repair it. 2013, they took the bidding. 2014, they delayed it. They finally corrected it in 20 or something like that. 3 times over budget overload or budget overstatement, whatever you want to call it. And it was sort of repaired, but not really. It took him 6, 7, 8 years for just this bridge, a little bridge. He showed this picture. Please go see him. Graham Allison. It's a TED Talk. And he, of course, is the architect or the designer of the Thucydides trap. And he said that in this example, in China, they needed this one bridge fixed. It was a pretty substantial bridge, but they needed it repaired and some new additions made and whatever. Now, if it took 7 or 8 years to fix the Charles River Bridge or whatever it was in Cambridge, he asked the question, how long do you think it took China to replace this bridge? And they showed it in time lapse. Answer, 43 hours. 43 hours. There is a rail system that goes from Western Iran to Eastern China. It takes 14 days to travel on it. 14 days. And it is whatever the Strait of Hormuz is going to do, whatever that is, it's everybody from Azerbaijan to Spain to Barcelona. I mean, it is phenomenal. So what Xi Jinping does, he says he had 2025, 2035, and 2049. I don't think I'm going to be here for the 2049 centennial. Okay. But what's interesting is that, who knows, I could be, but they are planning an event. They want complete world supremacy. This is changing everything. We've never seen this before. We've never seen this. And I'm looking around and I'm saying, I don't want this. I don't mind being the hegemon. I don't mind this. I'll tell you right now. I don't mind the United States being leader of everything. What scares me is when we have this unique ability that when we don't like something, we will always change the facts or change our perception of it, and we'll create facts to make it sound such. For example, sometimes I've heard this years ago. People don't do it anymore, but somebody would say, "Don't give me this about. Don't tell me about smoking." My grandfather smoked till he was 95 years old, and he smoked filterless Luckies. And see, it's the filter. What? It's the filter. You see, they didn't have filters. The filter? Yeah, it's the filter. They just make this stuff up. Really? That was it? Yeah, it doesn't matter. Butter's good for you. We need cholesterol because the brain needs cholesterol. And if you don't have cholesterol, your brain doesn't work. And they'll make these things up. And then they'll jump on something for no particular reason. Seed oil. And they'll just do this. And then you'll say, okay, well, I like the fact that you're alert to certain things. I appreciate the fact that you're doing that. But let me see if I can explain some other things to you. Do you think that perhaps maybe you might want to expand that to other things which are really critical? Like, for example, will we ever get to the point where you or other people are concerned with what we are spraying in the air? You've heard me have Dane Wigington on. He is the preeminent expert in geoengineering. That's a conspiracy theory. Oh, okay. You see how that works? We like certain things and we don't like other things. Now, this past week, there was a story. Did you see where Tulsi Gabbard, the CIA, supposedly broke in? I took JFK files or whatever out of her office. Let me ask you something. Question number one. Since this is another side of midnight, do you believe there exists in any file, a file, whatever the file means? I don't know if it's an electronic file or if it's an actual manila file, the file, I don't know. But do you truly believe that anything exists in a file? Do you? Do you believe there is anything even remotely contained in a file? The Epstein file, the JFK file. Do you think that? No. Do you think there is any file? Do you think Pam Bondi had files? Do you think there exists anywhere in DC or any place that actually had files where if you looked in the files, you'll say, hey, look at this. There's so-and-so. Hey, in this JFK file, we've got a picture of the actual shooter. Hey, look, the magic bullet. Hey, look, there's something about here. It was Lucien Sarti on the grassy knoll, on the berm, Do you think there's anything in a file? The answer is no, there's not. So why do people say it? Next question. If I appointed you, if I brought you to DC, and I said, sit down, and I had all the cameras on you, all the lights, all the attention, and I asked you a very, very simple question. Who killed JFK? What would you say? Now, we heard a couple of people before speak, and they spoke in this very general, and they do the best they can. They think they've cracked it, New World Order, globalist, whatever it is. But I'm very, very serious about this because I love this. People will still talk about JFK and not know what they're talking about. Let me give you a background on this. All my life, I guess that was really the first time that something really grabbed my attention. I have been a part of this for much of my adult life. I've been to seminars. I've actually been to groups of people who meet actual experts who meet on their own time, some of the best reviewers, and they have details you cannot believe. The level of deep dive today is incredible. By the way, speaking of which, assassinations, Charlie Kirk, the amount of citizen evaluation in terms of what's going on with that, it will blow your mind what citizens are able to find out. So my question is simply this. I've heard so much about this, but there is no absolute answer that is even remotely available that would satisfy you or anyone else as to who killed JFK. Let me say this again. There is no evidence, no witness, no file, no nothing that would satisfy you, that would say, oh, okay, I understand it. Because it was a very, very complicated, multi-layered cabal, so to speak. So let me ask you this question at 800-848-9222, because I love your stuff, because it's still in the news. They're still toying with this. Who killed him? Now, if ever you want to talk about the paragon of limpidity, somebody who always has his finger on the pulse and the prostate of what's going on in the rest of the world, let's go to Charlie in Cherry Hill. Charlie, you're on Another Side of Midnight with Lionel.
Thank you for taking my call, Lionel. And what I called to talk to you about was the first two callers you were talking about, you were discussing it with, and I think you said you criticized what you perceived to be the lack of their critical thinking skills.
What did they say specifically, in case people who weren't here, Charlie, and don't remember what the first two calls were? What pray tell were they? Sure.
The first caller began repeating himself and getting louder and louder with you, which I won't do because I think that's rude. I'm not going to do that to you. But what was he repeating himself? What was he repeating himself about? He said, "I want you to repeat the 5 words: Donald Trump administration, Epstein files." Okay. So he wanted to repeat that over and over, and he got louder and louder. Right. And then the second caller started talking about the Rothschild family. And the Rothschilds, and what I think is not just that these people were conspiracy theorists or that they lacked critical thinking skills, although they certainly were that. But I saw in both of those two callers an anti-Semitic tinge in them, which I think may have gone over your head. Where did you get the anti-Semitic women? Now, wait. Sure. What was anti-Semitic about the first question about Donald Trump and some kind of an Epstein connection? I'm sorry, I didn't catch that. The 5 words he asked you to repeat were Donald Trump administration, Epstein files. Why is that anti-Semitic? Well, there's been a point of view. There's been a group of people online, and these are many thousands of people online who are contributing to the internet, and they're communicating on the internet. And what they seek to do right, and they seek to put forward an anti-Semitic narrative. Okay, what was going back to what he said? I understand that. What did he say that was anti-Semitic about Donald Trump, Epstein, whatever? Tell me. Well, I don't understand. Sure. He was the anti-Semitic portion of his call was he was trying to connect Donald Trump and our current president and his administration to the Epstein files. Many people believe that. Let me ask you a question. What does this have to do with anti-Semitic? I'm sorry. Let me again. Jeffrey Epstein was there. He was a bad man. Okay. Yes, what does this have to do with it? Okay. Well, but if I were to wait. So just tell me again, where's the anti-Semitic connection to him or any kind of concern? I'm trying to answer your question. Many people believe that Jeffrey Epstein, as evil man as he was working with the Mossad, and he was. Yeah, but he didn't say that. No. Wait. He didn't say that, though. Yes, you're right. There are some people who think that. This caller didn't say that. No, that's correct. He did not say that. He did not bring up the Mossad in his call. Your memory of the call is correct. He didn't say anything about it. So why did you say that his call was anti-Semitic? He said nothing about that. Well, I have that makes the hairs on the back of my neck stand up literally and figuratively, is when I hear people try to connect someone, particularly our president. He is my president. I voted for him. I like President Trump, and I even contributed money to his campaign. But it makes me nervous. I don't like when people try to associate him with Jeffrey Epstein for this. No, stop for a second. Wait. Yes. I'm not suggesting that there's any connection between him. No, but you must understand. Okay, wait a minute. Just hear me out. Just wait. Okay. You're going to hear connections? You're going to be talking about Jeffrey Epstein connected to a lot of people, Hollywood, and Trump or whatever it is, whether it's right or wrong or whatever. How can you not talk about that? How can you ask whether the president was either complicit, not as a conspirator, but perhaps maybe not
opening up the files enough or whatever it is. Again, I don't see any anti-Semitic connection at all. Anti-Semitism exists, to be sure. But again, I'm still waiting for the connection. What is, you say the hairs on the back of your neck, the hair should be going up. You should be horripilating constantly because Epstein's been in the news every single day from Virginia Giuffre. It's always there.
Yes, right. No, you're exactly right. So I walk around constantly with the hairs on the back of my neck stand up. I think many people try and associate Jeffrey Epstein because he was such an evil, terrible man to other people and other causes that they want to hold in disrepute. In other words, if you want to put Donald Trump down or you want to spread stink on Donald Trump, you tie him or you try to tie him or associate him with Jeffrey Epstein. It was
now, wait a minute. Stop for a second. Again, I'm not arguing that Donald Trump had anything to do with anything, but between Pam Bondi, Kash Patel, the DOJ, perhaps meeting with Todd Blanche, meeting with Ghislaine Maxwell, giving her kind of a cushy thing. A lot of people are very upset with how this case was and was not handled. Period. Well, those questions are not in any way out of the ordinary or wrong or whatever it is, and they have nothing to do to invoke the specter or the concern of anti-Semitism. None.
Well, no, but that has to do with the incompetence of government. Now, I would if I was in that situation, I would put a pit bull like Joe DeGeneva. I'm sure you know who he is. He's a very ferocious lawyer. I would put him in charge of something like that, and I would say...
But wouldn't the hairs in the back of your neck go up because they'd be talking about Jeffrey Epstein? Again, listen, Charlie, I appreciate your call, and I thank you very much for that. Please call me again. I hope you're listening to that. This is one of the things which is scaring me. If you use words like anti-Semitic, racist, xenophobic, homophobic, Islamophobic, transphobic, if you use this all the time or too much or use it improperly during conditions that don't, you dilute the word. You have people roll their eyes and go, oh, is he doing this again? This is a very scary thing we're talking about here. Make sure you know precisely what you're talking about. Don't attribute something. The Jeffrey Epstein, listen, you're not going to find out anything about this. Get it through your head. You can have all the files. It was handled so stupidly. Pam Bondi, I don't know what they were doing. Kash Patel, how he's still in leading anything. Look, I'm sorry. You're not going to find out anything. You're not going to find out anything about, I'm telling you, JFK, and you're not going to find anything about UFOs or UAPs because nothing that these people, the issue is not in the existence of these. You want to know the ins and outs of who was responsible, who covered it up. And in the case of JFK, to make it very, very simple, who killed him? Who was the actual person to pull the trigger? Because it wasn't Lee Harvey Oswald. Who was it and why and who commissioned it? You're never going to find this out. It's too late. Everybody's dead. Nobody wants to find out because deep down inside, they just want to talk about not finding it out. More coming up with me, Lionel, on Another Side of Midnight.
All night long, this is Another Side of Midnight with Lionel.
And the Ad Council.
This is Another Side of Midnight with Lionel. Now, to the Bernard McGurk Studios, here's Lionel.
Take my lips and kiss them.
Doesn't it sound like, oh, the stars out tonight? I don't care if there's lunch. Anyway, Lionel with you. And this, here we go. That's exactly the song. Is it too late to file a copyright claim on this one? In any event, my friends, this is Lionel with you. The final hour coming up. Don't you love, I swear to you, I find the real issue always is not so much the issue, but in how we think things. That's all. See, because what I find fascinating is like we are right now, but I guess what I'm saying is we have the ability to delve deep into areas that are so fascinating, but we won't, and apparently we can't, because maybe some people don't want us to, how do I say this? Don't want us to do it because we may get results that we don't like. Does that make any sense to you? You see, we need to put people in office who really understand things. We need a real science czar, not a Bobby Kennedy type, but somebody who really understands the issues at hand. We need to have a population that really understands AI, that understands singularity. We need to have people who understand the history of where the world is going. We need to have people who think outside of the box. Let me explain something to you. You know what broadcasting is, right? Broadcasting by its very nature is to be able to provide you a broad review or consensus of the world. Narrowcasting is when I give you the stories or a worldview that is consistent with what you want the world to be. Not the way it is, but the way you want it to be. Like the United States is always number one, that we're always the best, that we never make a mistake, that everybody can be beaten, that everybody can be, that with sheer firepower and military, and we've got endless weapons, endless weapon systems, ordnance. We can fund and fuel the world. We have endless money, endless power, endless influence. We are the hegemon. We are the greatest. We are the biggest, the baddest, right? Isn't that what you want to believe? So there are people who will tell you that we're the greatest country that's ever lived. Okay, I'm not going to argue that point. We're the best. Okay, maybe, whatever. Okay, fine. We are the most powerful. Now we got to stop. What do you mean most powerful? What do you mean? If you don't know what's coming, there's a BRICS meeting coming up in India. Modi is going to be really running this. You will never hear, ever, on any American cable's news system, BRICS, Brazil, Russia, India, China, South Africa, and the BRICS was a BRICS plus 7, this new configuration, if you will. Never. You will never hear it under any circumstance. Never. I will ask people, do you know what that is? No. How can you not know? They know what the UN is. They know a little bit about some of this stuff. I want a country that understands that the people who are going to run our business here, they have to understand how everything works. And you can't sit back, always think, don't worry. It's like people who think nothing can happen to their health because they come from good stock. Well, my grandmother lived to be 100, and my father lived to be 99, and I'm good stock, and I've got nothing to worry about because we live forever. And they ate bacon every day, and I don't have to worry about things like that. That's what scares me, because it's that hubristic sense of nothing can hurt us. This is a very different, very scary world, my friends. Coming up, a bit of etymology and how asking somebody a question may actually be correct English. This is one of my favorite subjects that I would love to delve into with you. All on Another Side of Midnight with a Lionel. Final hour. Stay tuned.
It's Another Side of Midnight with Lionel. Now, to the Bernard McGurk Studios, here's Lionel.
There we go. Can you hear me, Mr. Sir? There we go. Nothing like a little. I just sometimes I like Bill. I just like to hear the music. Call me old-fashioned. I'm funny about that. All right, my friends, 800-848-9222. And I'm telling you, this is the third and final hour. You know, one of the things which I love, and I guess that I'm being perhaps punctilious. I'm perhaps maybe priggish. I can't really help it. But there's sometimes things that bother me about mispronunciations. And I realize that I'm part of a kind of a last of the Mohicans, because I don't think anybody cares about this. People don't. The things that I worry about, the things that concern me, I think I'm the only one. I received this letter the other day from my high school classmate, and I wanted to send it back corrected, but I didn't because that would have been rude. But I wanted to so bad because things like the way we speak and what we say just drives me crazy. And if you say something, you will be called, again, priggish, punctilious, whatever it is. They won't call you that, but they'll call you snooty. If you use words that are big, big words. I've actually heard somebody say this. And you hear it all the time. Why do you use big words? I'm thinking, do you know what you're saying? That's like going up to an artist and saying, why are you using all these colors? Why are you so determined to use colors like this? Must you give us all these colors? And people will say things. And when I hear jewelry, I go crazy. Realtor. Pardon me. Realtor. I'm mispronouncing the mispronunciation. Realtor. And supposedly Tijuana, espresso, etc. It's just, and I don't say anything, I don't say anything. But the one that was really getting me recently was the word axe. And this is very interesting. And I was saying to myself and other people, I said, this drives me crazy. Because they'll say, can I ask you a question? I'm thinking that's not correct. At least I didn't think it was correct. So, as I am wont to do, I went and I looked it up. And I said, I wonder what the history of this is. Why do people say axe? Where does this per se come? Where does this come from? I want to know. And you've heard this before, right? You think it's wrong, isn't it? I mean, don't you think so? Well, the pronunciation axe instead of ask is not as I learned, it is not a modern mistake. It's not slang. It's not a corruption or a sign of ignorance. In fact, it is older than the modern pronunciation of ask. Now think about this one. The history of ask versus axe is one of the most misunderstood stories in the English language, or the historicity of the American or the English language. And a lot of people assume that axe is lazy slang or bad grammar. It is actually older than many people realize. The original Old English verb was spelled in different ways, including axion, A-C-S-I-A-N, A-S-C-I-A-N, so axion or askion, and forms that sounded closer to axe or axe, AKS or AX. Language back then was far less, they describe it as being far less standardized than today. So people pronounce words differently depending upon region, dialect. And over time, ask became the dominant standard form in formal written English, especially after printing presses and dictionaries pushed standardization. It had to have something. So in the United States, a pronunciation became especially associated with African American Vernacular English. Have you heard that? AAVE, African American Vernacular English. One of my favorites, not Ebonics, but African American Vernacular English. AAVE, particularly because enslaved Africans learned English from regional British dialects where axe was already common. Did you know this? So when people mock axe as ignorant, they are often unknowingly mocking a pronunciation that predates modern standardized English. And it goes even more interesting. The kind of sound switching is called metathesis. This is where words and sounds kind of swap places. For example, English is full of it. Bird used to sound more like brid. Third evolved from thrid. So this is part of who we are. It is our thing. It is our this thing of ours, so to speak. Now, when you hear people use other versions of this, one of the things that drives me crazy is Victor Davis Hanson. Victor Davis Hanson. I know people say, "Oh, I love him. He's a hack," but that's okay. It's okay. He's a hack that many people agree with. But he is, to me, he is soporific. He's somnolent. He puts you to sleep. And he's becoming more and more, I don't know what's wrong, but he's slowing down. And he says nuclear. And Joe Kent says nuclear. I don't know why people do this. George Bush W did it. Jimmy Carter did it. Other people did it. And I do not understand this. Where did you get nuclear? That would be of or pertaining to a nucleus. That would be something which would make sense. That is a nucleus. What is a nucleus? Nuclear. Well, that's called a cacoepy or a cacoepy. This is a mispronunciation. This is a word. They're just saying something else that doesn't exist. It doesn't. There is no word nuclear. Sometimes people will do like a metathesis. For example, they'll say film, but Canadians will say sometimes, and British people will say film, which is technically correct. Nobody says iron. They iron the clothes. We say iron. But if they did, that would be technically correct because they're pronouncing the words, but differently. If you said Wednesday, February, if you said that, it would not be in any way incorrect. It's just that's not the way we say it. We don't use these terms. Nobody says asked. They always say asked. I asked him a question. A-S-T. And I find this fascinating. And the reason why is because we are going to lose our language. And nobody cares about this, but I do. We don't teach it. We don't. My wife and I will be writing a letter and we'll kind of quiz each other like, is this correct? There's little tricks because grammar. I was blessed because I went to Catholic school, parochial school. We had the best nuns ever. And we diagrammed. And then in high school, I took a Latin, and Latin made you even more aware of pluperfect tenses and things like that, and subtleties. And it's something which I was blessed with knowing the foundation of this. Today, that's considered as And because of ChatGPT, people can throw in just the rough framework of a thought, and it will spit out something that sounds far more intelligent. Maybe that's a good thing. I don't know. But I guarantee you, there is something about, we should have, like in some other countries, language police, as they do notoriously, theoretically they do in France as well. In any event, 800-848-9222. And this week, we also, as I mentioned to you, one of the greatest stories ever is the notion of political theories. And one of the most overdone and overused and misunderstood is neoconservatism. They do it all the time, the neocon. And they use it, again, speaking of the wrong term, they use a neocon to mean somebody who is for war. That's not what a neocon is. Not even close. And this week, when Robert Kagan wrote this disquisition, this retreat from what is our foreign policy, I swear to you, they were talking about this in areas and corridors and online and in foreign, and my God, they couldn't believe it. The neocon, why is he doing this? Why is he getting away from this particular kind of a Trumpian theory, this neoclassical, whatever it is? Is he trying to embrace others? Is he trying to align himself more with more of a international flavor? And I realized, my God, they're not talking about it here. They're not talking about it here. How can that be? Fascinates me. Let's go to Marty in Whiting, South Carolina. Marty, you're on another side of Midnight with Lionel.
Morning, Lionel. It's Whiting, Indiana. I'm near the Illinois border.
Well, that's interesting because we have put down Whiting, South Carolina, and because that's what we wrote, I have to correct you. You're actually in South Carolina. You don't realize it, but you are. Anyway, Marty, talk to me, sir.
Hey, long time no talk to, but
yes,
I might not be a Rhodes Scholar like you. I'm only a high school graduate.
Not even close.
But that drives me crazy too when I hear Axe.
But you heard what I just told you. That's correct.
Oh yeah.
So
my brother says chimney. I said, no, Doug.
Oh no,
chimney.
No. Oh no, that's like chimney. I have a friend who says pamphlet, P-A-M-P, pamphlet, and spear for sphere. Mm-hmm. Spear, pamphlet, and another one too. Anyway, do me a favor, Marty. I want to spend some time because you want to talk about the Murdaugh case, correct?
Yes. Mm-hmm.
Good. Stand by. We're going to get to that right now because this is Lionel with you on Another Side of Midnight.
It's Another Side of Midnight with Lionel. This is Another Side of Midnight with Lionel. Now, to the Bernard McGurk Studios, here's Lionel.
Already Lionel with you. Indeed. This is one of those songs, Bill, that goes on. It's like, it sounds like Booker T and the MJ. They just go on and on and on. You never, I don't think I've ever heard this whole song through its entirety. In any event, Lionel with the 800-848-9222. We're talking to a man who, for some reason, thinks he's someplace else. He thinks he's in Indiana. He's actually in South Carolina. And I really don't want to get into, I don't want to argue with him, but listen, if you want to think that, my friend Marty, is up to you. Talk to me, sir.
Yeah, so that Murdaugh case, very intriguing. And, he just, that case got overturned. So now the prosecutor has already said they're going to retry him again. But
of course,
what an intriguing case.
Well, I think you were absolutely correct in reversing it. Absolutely.
Oh, yeah, I can agree with that. That
but here's
woman,
the story. Let me stop for a second.
She's seen dollar signs.
Well, no. They, first of all, they were using prior similar fact evidence, as they did in the case of Harvey Weinstein, where Harvey Weinstein's case, he had his third or fourth mistrial or hung jury. Mm-hmm. And anyway, but that's not it. Here's the deal. We know he did it. There's no doubt about it. But they didn't follow the rules. And then you had this clerk who was basically writing a book, who was telling the jurors, you could tell him, he's looking down, don't trust him. It's like, wait a minute. Give the guy a break. I mean, he is as guilty as the day is long, but you still have to, follow the rules. Period. Right. End of discussion. The best case is going to be, follow this one. This is going to be this Tyler Robinson with Charlie Kirk. Oh, this is a beaut. This is a beaut. He's as guilty as you are. And this drives people crazy when I tell people this. Like, what are you talking about? It's like, it's a piece of garbage. The case is horrible. This, I got to tell you, if ever I've never seen anything, why people love this Erica Kirk. She's this ditz. She's not so much she's a liar. She's just dumb as rocks. She just makes things up. And they're for some reason, they're bending over backwards. Did you happen to see that? Remember the White House Correspondents' Dinner? Remember that?
Oh, yeah. Mm-hmm.
People were walking around laughing. Kash Patel, the head of the FBI, was like trying to get his phone. He was waiting for his Uber. He was sitting there, I can't get reception. One guy was eating. They were taking wine. They were laughing. Erica Kirk ran out. I just want to go home. She was the only one crying who was let out. They secured the building and said nobody leaves except for Erica Kirk. And people are saying,
really? Didn't know that part.
Oh yeah, of course. So they're saying, why is she losing control? And they said, well, because you got to be mean. She was a widow. Well, she wasn't there at the time of the shooting. In fact, the shooting is another story. Did you know, by the way, in the case of the Tyler Robinson case? Now listen to this. They found a rifle. It was a Mauser 98. And the ATF report says you cannot link it to any kind of shooting that may or may not have affected Charlie. So it's a rifle they found that you can't connect. So they might have had a bazooka there. It doesn't matter. You can't bring it up, and they'll probably do motion and limine and keep it out altogether. Then there was the idea of the confession. He never confessed. They say he confessed, but he didn't confess. It is the craziest thing anybody has ever seen. It's like, what are you talking about? Anyway, that's the case to pay attention to. I'm sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off.
That one I'm not that familiar with. That's right. That one I'm not that familiar with, but when they had the Murdaugh case on court TV. I was glued to the TV every day. But you're a prosecutor. I can imagine you would have rolled your eyes if you had heard that the clerk was telling the jury members what she said.
Yes.
And then to find out she was going to write a book. It's like, wow.
Well, she did. And by the way, she also had, if you notice, she also had some problems, if I recall correctly, with her, how do I say this? She had some problems with her. I think they found her guilty, or I found her, she on probation for something. They pretty much dealt with that, whatever her situation was. But it blows my mind, and how anybody could sit there and expect this guy not to get a fair trial from this. I don't understand it. It's like, what? See,
Right.
Here's the thing. I understand why people get very upset with the fact that there are people who seem sometimes to be guilty. I understand this. I mean, I really do. Now, in South Carolina, what was the basic consensus? Did anybody think for a moment that he wasn't guilty?
Probably not.
Well, what did you think?
Oh, I'm guilty of sin. Guilty of sin.
Now, what was his, maybe you could help me, what was his defense?
Oh, boy, I got to search with my CRS memory. I think he said he wasn't even there, if I remember correctly. But
that's a good one. Listen, if you're going to come up with a good one, that's a good one. It wasn't me. I wasn't there.
Yeah. And
but he just, but there's something about it. It's very difficult sometimes for people. When you have a murder case like that, I understand it's most of the time, 99% of them plead guilty. It doesn't go to trial. It's just that he's very rich and they want to give him, there might be something at least roughly, sustainable with the case. Maybe some issue. But if ever somebody who looked guilty, first of all, is that not the goofiest looking family? What is with those people?
yeah,
This is like
yeah.
some ginger genetic experiment that went wrong. I don't mean, anyway, Marty, let me ask you something. What are you doing this weekend? Tell me a little bit about yourself. What do you do for a living, for those who don't know?
I'm a retired union construction worker of the Laborers Union, but I'm staying home all weekend.
What was that?
I'm getting over a bad cold, and if you can't tell by my voice, but I'm staying home all week, and I'm trying to beat this cold. I haven't been sick all winter till a few days ago, so I'm staying home.
Well, listen, remember, it's in order for you to build up a resistance and antibodies, you have to get sick. You can't go through life and not get sick. I go through one every year, maybe year and a half, where something hits me and I'm out for days. I mean, gone. And then I'm fine. I'm back up again. Everything's terrific. But people always will. And don't you love the advice you get? Take vitamin C. It's too late.
Yeah.
What is vitamin C going to do? Yeah. Take that Z-Pack. Well, listen, I hope you feel better, my friend. I thank you so much, and I wish you nothing but the best.
Before we hang up, can I tell you something real quick?
Yes, sir. Certainly.
I nothing against the guy that took over your spot there for the week. I know
let's keep it like that.
Hey, you know what?
All right, let's keep it like that.
I'm happy for you. But here in WGN, you're only on Saturday mornings. Sundays, they don't have your show on Sundays. They got some other thing on WGN.
I have to, I don't know about that, my friend. I would suggest you call and complain and protest, sick or not. Marty, I thank you. Don't ever change, my friend. Let's go to Sherry. Sherry, somewhere. Sherry, share alike. You're on Another Side of Midnight with Lionel.
Hi, Lionel. Let me pick up speaker for a second.
Thank you. Thank you for that.
Okay, I'm off speaker. And like that other guy, I miss you. And severely.
Well, I'm glad you're here.
Well, because you're so smart. You're so intelligent. And I know you're usually on for like 3 hours previously every night. And I don't.
No,
again,
it was 4 hours.
Against the other guy.
It was wait. It was 4 hours. It was 4 hours.
Wait. Well, maybe on your end, but Raleigh didn't get off till 1 our time.
Right. It was.
So you went from 1 to 4
and...
our time. So that's 3 hours.
Okay, there you go. Okay, good.
At any rate, I want to compliment you. I don't know why they shafted you.
No. Nobody's. No, please. See, you don't understand my take.
Well,
and
I don't know why they shafted us. How's that?
Well, no. Listen, nobody's going to be shafted. All I'm saying is you're a very nice person and a very beautiful person. I appreciate this, but I got to tell you something right now. There is nobody on the planet happier than I am. No one. And I will just leave it at that. But I wish you nothing but the best, dear heart. You're a sweet woman, and don't ever change. I mean that sincerely. Kenny in New Jersey. Kenny, you're on Another Side of Midnight with Lionel.
Yes, hi, Lionel. I wondered if you went to St. Paul the Apostle School.
No, I did not.
I'm sorry. You talked about Father Lloyd.
Yes. No. Yes. Did you know him?
I knew him a long time ago. Yes.
He is. There. Yes, he was he was the oldest. Paul. He died at 103. He was the oldest. He was the oldest Paulist priest, and he was a dear friend of my wife's and mine. And I loved him to death. And I used to kid and I say, "Come on, 100. Come on, please." You made your point, and we will laugh. He was just such a wonderful man.
He was. I used to sing in the Falls Choir back in the 1960s, the 50s, and 60s. And that was when they had the good music, Palestrina and William Byrd. But that was there was a priest there, Father Foley, who was the choir master at the time, and he was a perfectionist. We were supposed to sing in Carnegie Hall, and we were scheduled, and he did not like the way we were singing. He canceled the performance. But Father Foley was, that's probably not many people cancel their own performance.
See, that's incredible. That's the. I forget who was it one time they said who was such a bad singer that the teacher told him to hum. I forget. Was it John Cleese or could it be Sammy the Bulgar? I swear to God they said hum. Don't even sing. I will tell you something, and this is very, very important, Kenny, and I mean this. I wish, there's the Catholic Church has had a resurgence in the past, I don't know, whatever period of time, and people are going back to the church and finding it. Mm-hmm. And this Catholic Church is wonderful, but I think that they never really understood what it was if they could go back to what it was like in the 60s. And certainly it's not so much Vatican II that did it, but there was something about the grandeur. It took a downhill decline when they introduced the folk mass, when they started having lay people give the Eucharist. I'm thinking, what the hell is this? What are you doing? There were churches with all gay priests, even though they don't necessarily overtly acknowledge them as being gay, but still, not that there's anything wrong with it, but that's not the way we
grew up.
Do you remember? Let me ask you how good you were. Okay, this tells me everything. Do you remember Limbo?
Oh yes.
See, stop for a second.
Yes,
that's where unbaptized babies went, right?
Correct.
And that bothered me so much. Now, when you talk to some Catholics today, especially the newly converts, they'll say, "What are you talking about?" I said, "Limbo." They say, "Limbo." Mm-hmm. What are you talking? And they say, "No." Okay, here's another one too. Remember Saint Blaise? Remember, did you ever have your throats blessed?
Yes. We used to go over every Saint Blaise Day on the February 3rd, and
listen to you.
Yeah. The priests would cross candles and they would put them on your throat.
On your throat. And I think it was saying, didn't somebody have a chicken, something stuck in his throat? I don't know. But I thought, now, if they did that, if they did that for your throat, what if they had, for example, the version of like if I had Saint Kenny, who was from, let's say, the patron saint of prostates, what would they do?
They take care of me right now.
But I remember there was it was a different. Let me say something. All right, go back. Do you remember Latin masses?
I remember Latin masses. I was a choir boy and an altar boy. I took Latin at Powell Memorial, which was right a block away from the St. Paul the Apostle Church. We used to have we had the nuns there, Holy Cross nuns. But that's why I thought you mentioned Latin and Father Lloyd a lot. So I just
he was just a connection. He was just a friend of ours, and he was, which is he was a friend of ours. But I don't see it as I used to. Let me tell you one thing, which is the most important thing. See, sure. I, in my wisdom years, realized that the problem with the church is when they got lax. Because when there's certain things, for example, that you can lose the rules on. For example, baseball is still 3 strikes and you're out. The bases don't ever change. There's certain rules. You don't want to change things. You don't want to say, you know what, why don't we extend the baseline in this part? Because, well, I think the game is evolving. It's like the Constitution. People think you could just change it. No, you can't. But there was something that was different then. And I remembered the stricture of the rules, Stations of the Cross.
Every Friday during lunch.
Oh, yes. Did you ever, were you in school, did they raise money for the missions? I said, who are these missions? I don't know, but they get a little can. You have this can you would take home.
Do you have time for a short story?
Oh, please.
They used to have something called, they raised money for the missions, but the person that raised the most in the class, we bought a mission baby. And I have the certificate. You were sponsoring a child in the Philippines and things like that. And there was this actual certificate that I still have here from the 1950s. And it congratulated me for supporting a mission baby.
Yeah, but you bought it. You're like Madonna.
I didn't buy it myself. We was raising money because in the class you did. The class was.
Well, this is human. This is human trafficking. This is like, what are you're buying? Now, a couple of things was I made this stupid mistake of saying, who are these missions? Where are they? And they looked at me, and you had this can, and you slid the coins. There's no way you can get it open without just tearing the can open. So then they weren't done with that. They said, now we're going to go a step further. Now we're going to sell candy bars. And there was a company that made this white label, and you would print the name of your school on it. So now I'm selling candy. So I would come home and give it to my father and say, would you sell this? And he goes, damn it. Well, he didn't say damn it. He would throw in God. I thought that was my name for the first 4 years of my life. I was like, God damn. Anyway, so he said, don't I pay enough? Why am I selling candy? Dad, please help me. Okay. So we take the thing and buy them and give them to people. Then we had a thing too in high school, at a Jesuit high school. We had Krispy Kreme donut sales. Now, when Krispy Kreme in Florida was the biggest thing anybody's ever seen. It's like Tim Horton here. We would bring boxes, and by the time we would eat them before we brought them home. Anyway, make a long story short, But when you go to Catholic school, you got to remember that there's always some money making something or other. And I never found out about the missions. Now, what was your uniform? You had to have a uniform, which I firmly believe in.
Right, blue pants, white shirt, and a blue tie that had St. Paulian Apostle initials on the tie. That was an emblem. So it was on the tie.
That was something at the time which I hated with a passion until I look back and realize how smart that was. Perhaps it was indoctrination. Maybe. I don't really know. But I got to tell you this story. This is the one that I loved. I've told it before and I'll say it again. Mm-hmm. But what people think is, wasn't that boring? I said, oh no. Wait till they tell you about the saints. Now, they never told me about this, but you see, we had one nun, she loved the martyrs. Now, not St. Francis of Assisi, like, look, he liked the animals. Oh, that's nice. Oh, St. Barbara. Oh, No. I went to a school, St. Lawrence. Now, St. Lawrence was St. Lawrence of Rome. Now, when everybody, as soon as we're done, to go look this up on Wikipedia or wherever you want, I'm not making this up, but the story was that he was martyred and he was burned to death on a gridiron, meaning basically like barbecued, like a grill. Mm-hmm. And his line was, listen to this. His line, he was real cut up. He said, turn me over. I'm done on this side. So help me God. Look it up. And I would think to myself, he said what? Now I'm a kid. He said what? He said, turn me over. And I'm looking at people like, you mean as he's on fire, he comes up with this cute line? Maybe he must have was screaming it. And we were like thinking about this. So anyway, then there was St. Peter. Now, Peter, the head of the church, said, okay, you can crucify me, but I can't be crucified like Christ. I want to be crucified upside down, right? Mm-hmm. Now, anyway, so I'm thinking to myself, wait a minute, that's the second one. Another one was like poked his eye out and all this stuff. Anyway, so I asked the question one time, and I didn't ask it this articulately, but I nonetheless asked, I said, sister, perhaps you could help me. It is my understanding that the purpose of this catechism, or whatever we're doing right now, is to bring us to the faith, to make us want to enjoy all that is Catholicism. You're telling us about people who were killed by virtue of the faith that you want me to adopt. All these people did what I'm doing and they killed them. Now, I don't know about you, but can we talk about, did anybody make it? Oh yeah, St. Francis. Okay, fine. Now, remember when second grade came? Second grade was communion. And you had your communion kit. You got this white book. It was like a hymnal or it wasn't a Bible. It was more like a cat, because the Catholics weren't into the Bible. You had like a scapula, this thing that you would wear that itched. It was like a sandwich board underneath your shirt. Nobody really wore.
Mm-hmm.
Then you had you've got a scapula on now?
Brown one, yes.
Oh my God. It's brown after all the years.
A long time.
Wow. It was funny. No, wait. I didn't think anybody even had those. Wow. That blows my mind. They would also give you a little thing of like holy water. Maybe, did you ever have I had this crucifix in my room where you could slide the Jesus part off, and inside you could have holy water, a candle. Yep. Mm-hmm. It was like a dishwasher. You could hide a stash there. I'm sorry, that's sacrilegious. Who would look there? Now, what did you do with the palms? When you got the palms, you had to come back and thread them through the crucifix to make sure. Mm-hmm. I mean, this was
whole year.
Yes, and they never turn brown. It's like forget bread that doesn't mold. This stuff was like GMO palm fronds. They lasted. Maybe it was miraculous, but
you also got a tie at the communion, a white tie, and you were supposed to keep that tie in your bottom drawer until you committed your first sin.
No.
No. Yep, that's what it said.
Oh my God. No.
I still have
So listen
mine.
to this. Listen to this one. It gets even better. So when they were so afraid. We had these Marine Corps nuns. I don't know we were in line. We could march in precision. Like you can't believe. We knew where to stand, the tallest or the shortest. It was incredible. The May procession, we'd walk. It's like the Bataan Death March. You walk forever, but in a line. So anyway, they were so worried for the first communion. They said, listen, just to make sure you get this thing right, we're going to do a kind of like a practice one. So the priest came. So she went through to the sins. So she thought, well, it'd be a good idea if I go through the 10 Commandments and you figure out what your sins are. We're 7 years old. What the hell? What sin have I committed? Anyway, so when it got to adultery, now we knew what this was. We said, I wonder what she's going to say about adultery, because they had these flashcards on the chalkboard, these big, and when it came to adultery, it was a sixth, I call them the amendment, the sixth commandment, or seventh, whatever it was. It was a guy in a suit looking down either at his shoes or in disgust at himself. I don't know what it was, but that was a picture. It was a guy in a suit looking down. He dropped something. He's disgusted. He's upset. Who knows? But it said adultery. I guess dropping something, because we didn't know. We're 7 years old, but we knew. So when it came time to this commandment, the teacher interestingly said, hey, Jerry, would you close that back room, the door? Okay, great. Okay, number 8. Well, wait a minute. Sister, the hands went up. You missed this one. She did this deliberately to skip over. She didn't want to talk about adultery. So she said, adultery means thinking bad thoughts. Okay, jump to the confession. We're in there standing with our little pious, our hands in that prayer look. The priest comes out with his vestments. He's walking down. He is pissed off, and they're like flowing. And he says, listen up. I don't want to hear anybody say they've committed adultery. And he turned and goes, sister, I don't know what you're telling these kids. You did not commit adultery. Do you hear what I'm saying? What is adultery? I'd rather not go into that, but I don't want to hear it. Don't tell me that. All these kids, bless me, Father, I have sinned. I committed adultery. Okay, that was a fluke. Second kid comes in. I committed adultery. What is this, a rib? What is this? What are you, a wise guy? So finally, we got this envelope in the Mimeo with that smell. We had to take this home to instruct to our parents how to tell us about adultery. So I'm handing it to my father. He says, what the hell did you do? I said, nothing. He said, it's about adultery. I said, yeah. He goes, you know what that is? I said, of course I do. He says, well, what the hell is this about? I said, I don't know. He goes, what does it matter with these people? So anyway, he signed it, So anyway, this was my first thing. So there we are. The first confession. Do you renounce Satan? Do we what? Renounce. Renounce? Deny, abjure, derogate, execrate. Huh? What? I'm 7 years old. But Satan, anyway. But you know what? I look back with great fondness. It was a wonderful time of my life, but it gave me so much material. I'm telling you, Kenny, for the rest of my life, it taught me stand up. I would just tell people what I went through. I must run my
have a clicker.
Oh, yes.
Yeah.
And somebody
genuflect.
And somebody brought in a clicker too. Did you ever hear that story? Somebody brought in a kind of a response, that kind of a cricket clicker. So the sister would click once, and this guy would click, and she'd say, "Who was that?" And they never found out. But let me tell you something. Had they found that kid, you would have never seen him alive. He would have just disappeared. They would have hoffed his ass.
He went to hell. Yeah.
In a handbasket. Kenny, I thank you. I wish you the best. You have made me laugh. Let me say what you want about Catholic schools. Say what you want. We need it. We need it now. We need order. We need structure. Thank you, Kenny. Please call me again next week. This is Lionel with you on Another Side of Midnight.
All night long, This is Another Side of Midnight with Lionel. This is Another Side of Midnight with Lionel. Now, to the Bernard McGurk Studios, here's Lionel.
Sol Mocosa, Mano de Bango, Amuna Yeye, Amuna Yeye, Nikosa. Love this song. This and also Watusi, Ray Barretto, put them together, phenomenal. Remember Troglodyte? Gotta find a woman, gotta find a woman. We used to do it, Hot Pants. Remember that one, Bill? I was going to do one, we did one, we had my West Tampa friends, it was a Pantalones Caliente. Yo tengo mujer, yo tengo. They did Troglodyte, I think it was Troglodyte in Spanish. Very funny. Let's go back to the phones, back to the fun. George on Long Island, you're on Another Side of Midnight with Lionel.
Yeah, good morning. I was a court clerk, associate court clerk in state Supreme Court for the better part of 35 years. And you knew
you must be tired.
Oh, no, it was a great job. I loved it. Mm-hmm. I can't believe this clerk in South Carolina. She only got 2 months probation or something.
Yeah.
You never talk to the jury. You never talk to the jury. I'm just amazed what a fool she is. And the
but
money
George, not only talking to the jury, but telling them how to evaluate the defendant and what guilt looks like. Oh my God!
Just one other thing, Lionel. As a lawyer, you can tell. I'm sure it's not if you did it or did not do it. If the state could prove it or they could not prove it. It's that people don't understand. People today still don't. Most people. They come to the jury, come to jury duty, and they don't understand it. And years ago, when I lived in Florida, the Clearwater area, I got to go on jury duty. I got to go on jury duty, and one of my fellow jurors in the deliberation goes, "The DA said she did it, so she must have done it." That's all I have to say.
I thank you, George. Don't ever change. I mean that sincerely. Let's go to Eduardo in Tampa. Eduardo, you're on Another Side of Midnight with Lionel.
Hey, Lionel, I think we're running out of time, but I got to mention here.
I love the fact that you're watching the clock. I thank you for that. You're a professional caller. I like that. You're watching the clock.
Yeah.
I like that. So make it good and make it fast, whatever it is you're talking about. Wow us. You're the last
there's a
call.
YouTube video of this real estate lady. Her last name is Coffee. I forgot her first name. She says AI is going to be the next industrial revolution. She's talking to young, some college students at a commencement speech, and they booed her. But then the reporter says, "Well, you guys used ChatGPT for your studies, and now you're booing her because she said that statement." Yeah, it's pretty interesting.
It was very interesting. There was something interesting too. There was a commencement speaker. Oh my God, my wife knows his name, and he basically said that this generation is kind of coddled, and they booed him. if we had booed, right. Well, yeah, it is. Well, it's true. It's true. See, but here's the best thing. Nobody knows anything about it. Hey, listen, Eduardo, thank you so much. I appreciate it immensely. Thank you so much. And let me also say a special thank you to our good friend, Mr. Bill Lee, who is just manning the helm, and a fellow named Jackson. I don't know who he is. I don't even think he exists. But I hear he's there, and I appreciate that. And I want to thank him for doing so much, for taking your calls and doing the best he possibly can. Jackson, thank you. I don't think you exist, but that's okay. Maybe you're AI. Who cares? Anyway, thank you so much, my friend. We'll see you again mañana on Another Side of Midnight. And this is Lionel with you, reminding you the monkey's dead. The show's over. Sue ya.